thank you for tuning in to a special edition of the Zelos podcast. There's a couple reasons why this is special. One is that this is the 100th episode of the podcast. And if you've been with us since the inception, thank you for supporting and sticking around. And if you're new to the Zelos podcast, I'm your host, Snyder, and I would like to invite you to check out our archived episodes because we had so many amazing guests over the years, including this week, which makes this episode even more special. I get to stick around my hometown of Santa Cruz, California, hang out with Chris Murphy. And Chris, well, he's the vice president of the Golden State Warriors, NBA champs, by the way, as well as being the president of their G League team, the Santa Cruz Warriors. So we get to kick back and talk about his journey basically from the ground up. It wasn't like he was sweeping the floors and made it up there, but he came darn close. Be sure to click subscribe if you're not one of our already subscribed listeners, and enjoy the show. So, Chris, I'm so happy to have you on. We've been kind of bantering back and forth via email and messaging and so on. Finally found a time. President of the Santa Cruz Warriors, VP of the Golden State Warriors. First, I got to say a happy anniversary or congratulations, because the 10th season of the Santa Cruz Warriors is underway now, and you've got some celebrations coming up soon too. So first, welcome to Zelos and welcome to Santa Cruz. How's that been?
Well, first and foremost, Rocky, thanks for having me. Love the opportunity to get a chance to talk to you. Another Santa Cruz person, and obviously, the passion that our community has for the community in general and doing things that support each other. But being in Santa Cruz has been great. I mean, I've been here now 8 years. It's been unbelievable. It's a great place. I love, after spending the previous 10 years in the Bay Area, much larger area, much bigger communities, to now be in Santa Cruz, where you get to know the person that you see at the grocery store. You see a lot of the same community people throughout, working on things together and trying to really lift each other up. So, being a part of the Santa Cruz Warriors has been a fun ride so far.
Yeah, and this ride started 18 years ago, as you told me before we began recording. And I was just kind of kiddingly saying, to just start like sweeping basements or something and move your way up the ranks. But you kind of did. You started ticket sales?
Entry-level ticket sales, yep. So I worked in our group sales department back when I was 22. And I'm from upstate New York originally. I'd got this job with the Warriors, so moved across the country to start selling tickets for Golden State long before Golden State was winning a lot of basketball games, that's for sure. I think my first couple of years combined, we won like 40 games. So I think back then it was ticket sales, and just kind of grew in the ranks of the ticket sales area and into ticket sales management, senior level management at Golden State. And then 8 years ago, I had the opportunity to come to Santa Cruz and kind of run the entire organization, which was awesome. I mean, ultimately, the president at the time, Rick Welts, had came to me and said, hey, you've obviously been learning a ton, like, everything there is to know on the ticketing side of our world, but we'd like you to go to Santa Cruz and learn how to run a whole organization. So it's been a great ride in Santa Cruz so far. I've learned a ton, but I've also met a lot of amazing people and had the opportunity to accomplish a lot of great things. So it's been a really fun ride. But yes, it all started with 120 phone calls a day trying to get people to come watch Golden State Warriors games back in 2005.
Well, now you got to be swatting them away because ticket sales are through the roof, and Chase Arena is amazing. And as I understand it, Santa Cruz Warriors has one of the highest attended team schedules. Is that still the case here at year 10?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've probably led the league we lead the league in ticket revenue every year and just attendance and whatnot. I mean, there's some teams that play in much larger buildings, so they may have more number of people in the building throughout the course of an entire season, but we have the fourth smallest building in the league and generate more ticket revenue than anyone. So I would say our atmosphere, our crowd, being in Kaiser Permanente Arena is second to none G League wise.
And I got to wonder, you grew up in upper state New York, you say, were you just finishing up school there and looking for like a seasonal job or something on the job board? And then it came up that, hey, come out to the West Coast and sell tickets. I remember in the Santa Cruz Sentinel, when I first moved out here, it was like, you want a job for this many dollars an hour? Come in and just go on robocall and sell tickets for some kind of some rodeo or something. I mean, is that what you got yourself into? How did that all come about?
So so when I was in college, it was 2005 was my senior year, and back then, the NBA was really starting, and organizations were putting a lot more emphasis on kind of the ticketing side of the business and getting more people into games. And it's not turning on Ticketmaster and people flood by the thousands to buy tickets. It's very proactive, a lot of the stuff. So at the time, teams were building out ticketing staffs. So there was a job fair that I actually applied to go to and went to in Dallas at that time. Had a few different opportunities with different teams coming out of that 3-day event, and just decided that Gold State was the best opportunity for me. And then I thought I would stay for a few years and go back to Syracuse, New York, and be back where my family is. And here we are 18 years later. It's been impossible to leave. It's such a great organization. We've had so much success on and off the court. And now, this is home for me now.
And I'm just curious, so you were into the sales aspect? Is that where your mojo was, and it just so happens to combine with sports? Have you been a diehard sports fan your life, or what?
I grew up playing sports nonstop, following sports all the time. Actually, while I was in school in Syracuse, I worked for Syracuse athletic department, selling tickets and whatnot. So I knew I wanted to be in sports. And it was at a time when, across a variety of sports, just business opportunities in the sports business industry started to kind of blossom a little bit more. So I think these off the court type business adjacent positions were becoming more and more prevalent. And it was a great perfect storm of timing for me to have the opportunity to join when I did. And now I think it's a lot harder to probably get in the sports industry today. But it's something that is really, now it's mainstream. I mean, so many schools have sports management programs. Being in the sports business, I mean, there's hundreds of billions of dollars that are surrounding sports on the off the court or off the playing field side.
And now, for many years, Golden State Warriors were selling their tickets for Oracle Arena over in Oakland. And what, 3 years ago now? Is this the third or fourth season that you're at the Chase?
It's so sometimes it's hard to remember. So it was late. It was fall 2019. The Chase Center opened. So we had some games, and then COVID took place, right? And so this is the first, I would say, like kind of full scale, all out season with no limitations tied to COVID. This feels like mostly like the normal year again. I think this is now, we've kind of opened this building 3 or 4 times now, because there was kind of the stop and goes throughout the pandemic. But Chase Center is unbelievable. I mean, world-class experience, amazing building. I know you've been there several times as well. So it's really just something special. We're very fortunate. And then winning a title, here at Chase Center, the first banner to be hung in San Francisco in a long time, is pretty special as well.
You just had to bring that up, didn't you? Being a Celtics fan, just going to put that salt right in my wound. I appreciate that. So, but what about this? How about seating arrangements or seating capacity? Comparing Oracle to Staples, what are we talking differentially?
Oracle to Chase Center?
Oracle to Chase.
Yeah, so the building at Chase Center is actually slightly smaller than the capacity was at Oracle Arena. And that was by design. I think what you've done with Chase Center is you've put every seat in Chase Center is like closer to the court than a comparable seat at Oracle would have been. So you're really like bringing in that experience even closer for fans. I think what many people don't realize is, at Oracle, we're a building that was built that also could host hockey and other types of events. And your floor print starts to get wider and larger when you have to factor in ice and different things of that nature for hockey. So I think like this building here at Chase Center is just bringing everybody closer to the court. Slightly smaller, a little bit over 18,000 versus Oracle was 19,596. So about 1,500 seats ish smaller, but you really feel like you're right on top of the building, or on top of the court.
And you're right in the center of the city, the heart of the city, down by the wharf. And with Oracle, unfortunately, it didn't have that same kind of footprint or location. So it definitely a little bit more family friendly, definitely a little bit easier accessibility with public transit and so on. So tell me this though, throughout these years here in Oakland, San Francisco, were you living in the Bay Area? Were you staying in one place? Did you have to transfer just because you went across the Bay?
No, I mean, for me personally, I lived in San Francisco in my 20s, like all young 20s people should, and worked in Oakland every day. So I actually took part to Oakland every day for that work, and then eventually moved to the East Bay, more so from a starting a family perspective, and then now I actually reside in Santa Cruz. So with the transition of the Santa Cruz Warriors, kind of moved to Santa Cruz, becoming more a part of that community. And then I just traveled to San Francisco to go to Chase Center when needed. So a couple of days a week I spend in San Francisco, and it's really not that far. And I think it's something that even throughout the Bay Area, our own organization and others, I think people get this like mindset that, oh, it's like so far. But I could be back and forth to Santa Cruz in an hour and 15 minutes versus you could commute from Walnut Creek or Pleasanton or the East Bay or whatnot to San Francisco, and it could take you an hour and 15 minutes. So,
all right, and what a few people are wondering is, has this New Yorker turned into a Santa Cruz surfer, or have you stayed out of the ocean and just focused on your work?
I love the water. I grew up on a lake. I would say I am not really a water sports individual. I'm probably more love fishing and being on the water, but I love being in and around the water. I mean, that's one of the best parts about being in Santa Cruz is you can get to the beach so quickly, so easily. And I think one of the things I've enjoyed the most about that in Santa Cruz, I have young kids, an 8 and a 6-year-old, is you don't need to make it a big event. Right? Like not every time we go to the beach has to be a 3 or 4 or 5 hour full day thing. It's like, let's go for an hour because it's so accessible, it's so close, it's so easy. So, I mean, between the ocean and the redwoods and everything, Santa Cruz really is a pretty special place to live, as you know.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, that's what keeps us here also. So with the Santa Cruz Warriors and the G League, and maybe it's just because it's more in my awareness now, but it seems like the G League has come up in popularity, and not just in Santa Cruz, but across the nation. We've got a lot more interest in where these NBA players are breeding, so to speak. Where are they starting to percolate up to the ranks of the NBA? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been exciting. I mean, even in the time that I've been, when I came into the G League in 2015, there was 19 teams. Today we have 30 teams in the G League, including one in Mexico City as well, which is pretty amazing. They just had their opening weekend there. So, I think it's getting more international, it's getting bigger. I think when I came into the G League as well, it was more, that you have younger players in the G League and maybe you get that shot in the dark, some player that gets to the NBA. But there wasn't a ton of movement. But every year it's gotten stronger and stronger. And the talent on the court today is incredible. I think, the factoid I'll give you is that when the NBA rosters open on opening day of the NBA, so 3.5 weeks ago, the opening day NBA rosters, 47% of players had G League experience. So almost half the NBA had played in the G League. And that's, you had 50-something rookies that hadn't even had a chance to be in the G League yet. So throughout the course of the season, those numbers are just going to climb and climb. It wouldn't surprise me if you see 55, 60% of the NBA by the end of the year that had played in the G League. So it really is, it is your best path to the NBA in terms of if you're a young player trying to get into the NBA, it is the G League. And many would consider it the second best league in the world. So we really are, the talent on the court is so different today than it was even 2 or 3 years ago. And it's exciting. I mean, now you have so many young players on every team at the NBA level that have played in the G League that are getting experience. I think every team has at least 4 guys that have G League experience this year, with some teams having as many as 10 or 11 in the NBA. So I think even the Warriors last year winning the title, I think we had 11 guys on that title team that had played or practiced in Santa Cruz. So there really is just more and more of that development happening G League wide.
Yeah, and I think when you think about, I remember seeing them then, that kind of draws more interest to the games themselves. But how do you find these players? I mean, now that you're president of the Santa Cruz Warriors, you must be involved with the recruitment process to some degree, or oversee it, or are obviously familiar with that. How does that work?
I mean, it's actually, so I run the business. I work with our basketball guys all the time, but they really get the credit for that. So we have a general manager, David Fitoki, in Santa Cruz. So he kind of is in charge of kind of putting that team together. He's the Bob Myers of the Santa Cruz Warriors. And really the best part about that is, so David actually like reports into Bob Myers' group at Golden State. So our basketball side of the Golden State Warriors, Santa Cruz Warriors, they have like multiple responsibilities across both organizations. They're really creating that synergy. I think the challenge that someone like David faces is putting together a team in Santa Cruz that not only obviously we would like to be winning, right, but that we're bringing in guys that Golden State wants to evaluate, that maybe play a certain style, a certain system, because at the end of the day, it's all about development and finding those guys that might be the next contributor to Golden State, right? I think one of the easiest ones for us to point to of recent years is Juan Toscano. I mean, he started in Santa Cruz. He was a tryout player for us. He made our roster as a G League player, played with Golden State for a few years, and now he's on the LA Lakers. I mean, these are the types of diamonds in the rough that you find that can make an impact on winning a championship at the NBA level. So our basketball guys are scouting all throughout every college area you can imagine. They're on the road all the time scouting games. Golden State has an intricate network of scouts that are, work for the Warriors, and they're kind of regionalized throughout the college game. So you have the person that's in the Southeast kind of is scouting the Southeastern part of the college game. And then when there's big time prospects or whatnot that are worth everybody's seeing, like more guys are going to those games to make sure we're really evaluating the type of talent that's out there. And then I think what's really cool about our system with the Warriors is, obviously the ball needs to flow, right? At the NBA level, like we play at Santa Cruz, we play the same offensive style and defensive style as Golden State by design, so that when the young Golden State players need more minutes and they come to Santa Cruz, it's the same system, it's the same terminology, like we're kind of, the flow works, their development is easier. But one of the things that we emphasize in Santa Cruz as well is bringing in high character players, team first minded players, because it's really the only way to make it work in the G League. I mean, I think when you end up, the G League is really built to some extent where you have some players that think that their best path to the NBA is to score 30 a night in the G League, and it might be on 23 shots and being that ball dominant person, and we'll get to the NBA. And with the way that players come and go and everybody's fighting for their shot, it's a really tough atmosphere if you have a lot of me first players. We've done a great job over the years of putting together high character, team first attitude players that are rooting for each other, that understand that tonight might not be my night because Golden State's draft pick's coming, or really being able to work together in that next man up mentality, so that when you do have a scenario where somebody gets called up to the NBA, and we're excited about that, we're happy about that, that next guy's able to step up and say, okay, now it's my opportunity to shine first. So I think it's a challenge to put teams like that together, but I think David and our previous GMs before that have done a great job.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, I can see it just being showboaters trying to just get the attention of whomever to move on up. But to actually make it into a team environment where all boats will rise with the tide, that takes a lot more effort and focus. So I'm curious though.
Real quick on that. Like I've always said, you watch these guys that think it's got to be about scoring and putting up big numbers. But then you take the step back and just rationalize as like every NBA team has multiple guys that could score 30, right? They don't need another person to score 30, right? They need somebody that's going to be able to maybe provide a scoring punch off the bench, but play a role, like go out and get 6 or 7 rebounds, play hard defense, be a team first guy, pass the ball, distribute. Like there's not a lot of guys that are getting that call up that are averaging 30 at the G League and then going to the NBA and scoring 20 a night. That's not what NBA teams need for the most part. So I think that kind of mentality in the G League of that, like I said, Juan Toscano, that all around game, almost like the Draymond Green game where 8.6 rebounds, 5 assists, great defense. Like those are guys that are getting their shot at the next level as much or more often than the 30-point guy. Yeah,
interesting. Well said with that. So in your position with the Santa Cruz Warriors, what are your biggest challenges, whether we're talking within the Santa Cruz community and the organization itself? What are the things that you have to navigate through in your position?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we could go on, we could talk for hours on this piece. But no, I mean, I think, if I'm breaking it into several, I think COVID was definitely one, right? I mean, I think, heading into that, we had sold out every game for 4 years in a row. Really strong season ticket base, like crowd going crazy every night. And then obviously we took a big hit there. We didn't play home games for about 20 months. Obviously being familiar with Santa Cruz, it's not, we had an older fan base, a lot of people that may have been a little bit more concerned with COVID as well. So we've taken a little bit of a hit attendance wise. We're building it back up, and it's still the best building in the league, and we're still selling out a lot of nights. But it's a challenge to get those people feeling more comfortable coming back to more games. Another challenge we face is on the staffing side. Setting aside the Santa Cruz environmental challenges of housing and how expensive it is, those are very valid, and we could talk about that for a long time. But from the sports business side, I think the challenge is we consistently have a lot of new staff. And that is because on the business side, and that is because we are an area where you come in, like you have a lot of success. We teach you the right way to sell tickets or partnerships or marketing or community relations, whatever the function is. You learn a lot in a short amount of time, and then Golden State's pulling them up to Golden State. Other sports teams are grabbing them. We've had a lot of success off the court in Santa Cruz, so that generates a lot of eyeballs as well. But every year we may have 3, 4, 5 people, which for us represents 15 to 20% of our overall group, that gets kind of their call up on the business side to a major league team. And hopefully that's Golden State, right? That's what we want. But we had a couple this year have opportunities in other major leagues and whatnot. And that's great. We're excited about it. We're happy for them, but it creates a challenge because we start back at square one with teaching somebody the ropes, getting them ready, really getting them into it so they can impact our business in a positive way. And then a year or two later, they kind of get plucked for a bigger opportunity, which again is great. It's what we want. It's awesome for our team members to grow like that, but it can create some challenges in the local front as well.
Yeah, now that's something I wasn't really privy to. I didn't really even consider it, but you've got players on the Santa Cruz Warriors that may get recruited outside of the Warriors organization, say with the Spurs or the Heat. That happens?
So that's I was even referencing the business side. So I'm our people that are on the business side, we lose 4 or 5 a year to bigger opportunities. We lost a couple in the last few weeks to Golden State and to some other opportunities. So they're good growth opportunities for them on the business side. The basketball piece, again, like this is something that, of our 12 guys on our roster, at any given time, the most Golden State contract guys that we have is probably 3 or 4. And those mean that there's those 3 or 4 guys are untouchable because they have a Golden State contract. The other 8, 9, 10 guys are completely free agents. Like any NBA team could grab them at any time and bring them to their NBA club. And it's really an open flow model where the goals from the league perspective is to give players the best opportunity to get to the NBA, right? If you're a point guard and you're on the Santa Cruz Warriors and we have Steph Curry, like your future path to the NBA may not be as smooth, right? But if the New York Knicks need a point guard and we've got somebody performing really well, they can say, hey, you know what? We want to take that guy. And they play with us one night and the next day they're on a flight. And it's a good thing. It's definitely something we have to get used to, right? Because you might be playing really well and then you might lose a couple of guys and next thing you know, you might not be winning on the court as much. But that's kind of the model, is to give these guys the best opportunity to get to the NBA as well.
Yeah, but then on your side of the fence in the business realm, you've got in-house corporate headhunters that are within your organization plucking some creme de la creme of people that you've cultivated, preened and primed, and then there they go. I mean, you like you say, you got to feel good for them, but oh man, if I keep growing this garden and somebody else keeps picking my vegetables, there's going to come a time where I'm not going to be all that gracious, but I have a feeling you hold out a lot more than I would. But
being like, now at this point we lean in, right? Like, so it becomes part of our recruiting pool. It becomes part of at the end of the day, Golden State, Santa Cruz, we're one larger organization. So at the end of the day, if we can help each other synergistically business-wise. It's for the greater good. And it ends up being a key development tool that we use in Santa Cruz is like, hey, like you're on a meeting every week with the people at Golden State that have your job. So you're really able to learn and grow and develop. And that learning helps Santa Cruz in the short run because you're getting better at your job. And then ultimately, you know, if you graduate to Golden State, the way I tell myself it all works is the more people at Golden State that have come through the Santa Cruz pipeline, the more they just have that affection for us. They know who, you know, they know what that beautiful experience is like in our building, and they want to support our business in other ways. So it ends up being a great ecosystem, but it's a challenge we face on the local level is starting over. As soon as you get people to a point where they're really able to make a major impact, they get grabbed and you just gotta kind of reload.
Yeah, I get you. So part of your role is cultivating tribal culture, right? Just and having certain core values, I imagine too. They must be written within the doctrines or the business plan of the entire organizations. What does that look like?
I mean, culture to me personally, as well as, you know, to a lot of elements of the word is like culture is kind of everything, right? Like if we think about it in Santa Cruz, I mean, we have about 20 people on the business staff, which we have to run an entire sports organization. So for example, an NBA club has on average probably like 300 to 400 employees, right? We have to run the same business with 20. Our you know, there's a few less zeros on our dollar amounts. There's some less scale, right? But you know, across our 20 people, like our marketing team has like 4 people, and that's the biggest marketing team in the league, versus Golden State's marketing team may have 60 or 70, right? You know, and they're obviously have a much bigger brand, but at the end of the day, across our teams, like we still have probably 8 or 9 different departments with 20 people. So I think what that means from a culture perspective is you get to learn a ton because you get to experience it firsthand. You get to get your hands dirty. But we rely on each other so much. You know, bandwidth is always at a premium, but at the end of the day, there might be, you know, a big event that we have, and we don't have an army of part-time staff that's going to be able to come in and do a lot of the setup for the work or whatnot. So that's, you know, our group of full-timers, like we throw on our mesh shorts and t-shirts and we lay carpet for the event or set up the tables. You know, it builds that team. It really builds that mindset of like, hey, we roll up our sleeves to help each other. We are all rowing in the same direction for the greater good of our organization. And we really, it fosters an environment where people care about each other, right? Like they care about each other off the court, or outside of the office, they hang out at times. We all work really hard in the sports world. Like we work hard, but we have a lot of fun doing it. And at the end of the day, we get to go to work every day to talk about basketball. It's not a bad thing either. But I think how we build up each other, how we help each other, and really, you know, I referenced that team first mentality on the court. That's the only mentality that we kind of tolerated off the court as well. If you're not willing to always be about the greater good, it doesn't really work because we don't have some of the luxuries that much larger organizations might have. You really got to be collaborative.
Yeah, and see, you know, you brought up earlier, Chris, about the housing and so on around here, and of course, and fewer zeros you just mentioned as well. So I'm curious, when it comes to housing of your staff as well as the athletes, is there some type of communal housing or that the organization has set up, or how do you place people? Because I mean, from a business owner standpoint, myself here in Santa Cruz for almost 30 years of running a business, it's only the last 3 years that staffing has been one of the largest headaches, enigmas, their lack thereof staffing, of course. So how do you address that?
I mean, I think, you know, from an athlete side, you know, we have the responsibility to house the players when they're in season. So we solved that by partnering with the Hyatt on Broadway there. We're great partners of ours. They've housed the players for the last 3 or 4 years since that construction opened. So they're able to walk to the arena. It's just, you know, they have the same room the whole season, even if we're on a 10-day road trip, like nobody's going into their room. Like it's basically like an apartment for them. where it's a great scenario for them. And for these younger athletes, you've got your room being cleaned, you've got the pool, the fitness center, you're in a more hotel-like environment, which isn't that bad either. On the business side, it's a challenge. Like, I'd be lying to say if it wasn't, right? I think, we have a larger amount of our team that live in the San Jose-ish area, which isn't necessarily much less expensive, but there's more options there, and it's a reverse commute. We have several that live with roommates or rent rooms in houses, different things of that nature. So I think it's a consistent challenge. I think the other thing that's a challenge for us is, if we think about, if we were in New York City, right? There are dozens of colleges or universities that are feeders and just people around that would take that more entry-level sports industry job in and around the area. We don't really have a lot of that in the Santa Cruz space, right? Obviously we have UCSC, phenomenal institution, but not a major athletic powerhouse, right? Where if we were in Eugene, Oregon, you've got hundreds of students in a sports business management program that would be thirsting for the opportunity after they graduate to work right there. So I think it's just something that has created the lack of people with sports industry passion or experience, means we end up hiring from all over the country, really. And then as as a business owner, what's the first thing somebody does when you're offering them that job or whatnot? They're looking up how much it's going to cost to live, and it's a challenge. So
Yeah.
we have lost out on candidates we'd like to have. We've had people that have been with us that have moved on because of that as well. But, we keep trying to build a better business so that we can compensate our team members in a way that, is requisite with what they might need in order to be a member of the Santa Cruz community.
And are you open to internships? Is that happening within the Santa Cruz organization?
So we we collaborate on an internship program with Golden State. Our internship program is a summer internship program, really. Despite obviously our season being in the winter time. So we have a pretty competitive internship program to get into through the whole Warriors element. As you can imagine, there's thousands of aspiring students that would like that. But then really for us, I think in the local environment, we hire a lot of part-time team members. We have upwards of 100 that are on staff that kind of work game nights or work in the office and help us out on different projects so they're able to learn and get that experience. Those are part-time paid staff positions versus being an unpaid or college credit internship. But those are things that, people want to be a part of. We have a lot that actually, we used to draw more from the Stanford, San Jose world that wanted to be in sports. But between gas and all the other things, it becomes more of a challenge. But I think those things throughout the season really pick up. And quite frankly, for a larger volume of people that really want to learn the industry, that's when the time is, right? The summer internship, we have plenty to get done, to plan and be strategic and build. But in terms of getting hands-on experience in the sports industry, it's the season where you're really getting it. You're seeing everything in flow. You're not only seeing the game nights, but all the work and the prep that's going into the game night. And you're really able to learn a ton. I mean, I think, part-time or full-time, having an opportunity in minor league sports, it's like getting your MBA in sports business because you are exposed to everything. You are, you're sitting alongside the person that's doing a different job in a different department. We're constantly collaborating and brainstorming and coming up with ideas together. So you really get that breadth of knowledge wider versus if you're at Gold State or a major league club, you're kind of in a specialty, right? If you're in the marketing department, focus on that. And there's experts in the hierarchy above you that know how to do those things well, so you can learn a lot, but you may not have the same first person experience trying things out. You don't have the same opportunity to fail and to take chances and fail and risks and learn from them because it's a big machine, right? At the major league level, these are massive businesses. At our level, it's very important that we do things well, right? We want to operate at a really high level of quality, but we can take some chances. We can take some risks, try some new ideas. If it doesn't work, how did we learn from that? How do we learn from it and grow from it? So we really learn to kind of appreciate failure. As long as we're learning from failure, failure's okay. If we fail and then do the same thing a week later, it's obviously not ideal.
What about learning or collaborating, at least with individuals that hold the same title as yourself, same position, or the presidents and GMs of the other G leagues across the league? Is that something? Do you have a coalition? Is there an annual meeting where you gather together, or what does that look like?
All those things. And I would say this is, at the G League level for sure. So I know everybody that has my role, everyone on our team, they sit in on meetings probably monthly with their peers at other teams as well. I think on the basketball side might be a little different, right? They don't want to share trade secrets of strategy. But for the business side, like, if some of my best counterparts are the people in Dallas, Texas, or in Frisco running the Dallas Mavericks team, or in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, running the Milwaukee Bucks team. I mean, these are things that if we're able to share business ideas, things that are working in other areas, like if it's working for them, there's no reason to not share it with us, and vice versa, right? Like us having stronger businesses is only helping each other and helping the league. So I think we consistently, we have a biweekly call with every team president in the league. I mean, we have multiple meetings throughout the year that are more kind of conference style. We all are in the same place, whether that's around the G League Showcase in Vegas, or we do like a sales and marketing multi-day conference every spring as well, to just share ideas, get better, because ultimately the better our businesses collaborate together and all get stronger, it's good for everybody. On the NBA level, I think this is an area that they do probably better than any of the other major league teams. And having spent a decade firsthand at Golden State, and now still being a part of the organization, the NBA is what the G League has on steroids. I mean, they are working together constantly. They have a whole consulting arm of the NBA called TMBO, Team Marketing and Business Operations for short, that their whole role is to be like business consultants with teams. And you may have 5 or 6 teams, and you're going in, you're visiting them in market, you're helping improve their world, but then also bringing ideas from other teams that how other people are doing it, but then also taking ideas to other areas, right? And really hearing how teams are doing in different aspects of the business and finding ways to grow everybody. The NBA does this better than any of the other sports leagues. I think from a business perspective, it's definitely a rising tides mentality amongst teams, as you mentioned it earlier.
Wow, that's fabulous. I mean, I've heard of other industries within the field of business that have competitors in different regions that will audit one another, make recommendations to improve the entire industry. I didn't know that was happening in NBA. Do you also do it within the G League? I mean, you mentioned, that's happening there too.
Same thing. Like at the end of the day, like for you as a Celtics fan, if the Celtics are doing something well to sell premium suites, for example, like there's no harm in the Celtics sharing those ideas with the Golden State Warriors on doing the same thing, and vice versa, right? Like, it doesn't hurt the Celtics if we generate more sales revenue, right? If anything, it just helps us all. But we're able to not only share techniques, but really start to share ideas, creative solutions, good ways to package things differently. Maybe there's technologies that some teams are using that we're able to kind of build leverage around if more of us are using. So there's really a shared mentality across all aspects of the business. So, for me, it's at the team president level, but, there's my marketing lead has the marketing contacts at every team that they work together. Same with community relations or merchandise or sponsorship or tickets. They're constantly sharing ideas and information, which makes us all stronger.
Wow. And so currently, what is the driving trend for improving ticket sales? Like you just kind of mentioned, there's technologies and so on. I mean, at one point in time, it was just Ticketmaster, you call in to the front office, but these days everything changes in microseconds. So what, if you don't mind sharing, what are you guys looking at? How are you driving ticket sales to keep these record attendance continuing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wish there was more I could give you from just like a secret code, because there isn't really, right? Like in Santa Cruz, there's only so many people. Like we can draw from different parts of the Bay Area or whatnot at times, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, there are technological advances. There's insights into like who our customers are, so we can market to them differently. All these things are super valid and helpful. But I am old school and coming from a ticketing background, and I still maintain it's like picking up the phone and building relationships with people, and really hearing from Rocky, like what it is about, like, who do you come to the game with when you go? Where do you like to sit? Like really just getting to know somebody and listening, and then making a recommendation around why, hey, you know what, maybe it is only a half season plan that works best for you, instead of a full season or a group or whatnot. I think that hand-to-hand relationship, it's in our environment in Santa Cruz where we have 2,500 seats. We don't need 20,000 seats, right? So we can actually build those relationships authentically, and those are the ones that are built to last, right? Versus if I buy something online and I go to the game, if that online few clicks is my only connection to the Warriors, like, yeah, there's some technology that we can do or paid ads that we could put in place to make that click a little easier for me, but it's not really building my affinity to want to come back over and over and over again. I think being a part of something larger, being a part of that community, that atmosphere in the building, and having a personal contact. Who doesn't want to have like somebody at X sports team that I know, like, hey, if I want to go to the game with my family, I'm going to call Rocky. Like, he's going to take care of me. Having that expert inside is something that is really a great thing.
And then when it comes to community outreach, because you guys have done that, and I know, what are some of the most successful ones, or even better, what's the one that you're going, okay, we're going to do it, whatever, and then it turns out to be something that was just a tremendous success that you had no idea about?
The two good questions there. I'll start with like one of the things that's gone really well locally. So it's our Swishes for Dishes program that we've done the last couple of years, in partnership with Kaiser Permanente and an organization called the Athletes Corner that's working throughout the country to kind of end hunger. I think we've partnered with Second Harvest Food Bank in Santa Cruz County, where we really like started to work with them to say like, hey, food insecurity is a big issue in our county, as you know. And so we partnered through our Swishes for Dishes program, where the last 2 seasons, for every 30 points we scored, for every point we scored in a game, we donated 30 meals to Second Harvest Food Bank. So throughout the course of the season, we were able to donate over 50,000 meals to local Santa Cruz folks through Second Harvest. So that was something where we're really galvanizing the on-court performance to better our community overall. Some ancillary things we did with that is we took the team and we went down to Second Harvest and helped package food donation boxes that they give out in the community. So I think when we're able to do something full circle with community organizations authentically, it really makes a bigger impact. One of the surprises I'd say that we had, we've done many a beach cleanup over the years, right? It's something great. It's something we should do in Santa Cruz, something we love to do actually. But this past year we did one with the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Right there, we started at the wharf, and it was different because like our entire team was there. We brought all the players and coaches. We invited our season ticket holders to volunteer alongside us, and we had probably close to 100 people amongst the different groups to get out on Main Beach and Cowles Beach and walk around and pick up anything they saw. And I think what you find in those environments is like you had players, not just breaking off with players and going and doing their thing, right? It's a season ticket holder and maybe one of our employees and a player or two kind of like walking together and getting to know each other while doing good, right? Like cleaning up our beaches, which is good for a variety of reasons that we don't need to get into because they're fairly obvious. But I think you saw those interpersonal connections happening. And I think when we're able to do that out in the community and build the connection, it really just magnifies the impact that you're making, right? I think everybody can get excited about and rally behind cleaning up our beaches. Like there's trash, like that doesn't need to happen. And you had everybody into it, competing to see who was going to fill their bucket first, who could pick up more trash. And I would say to Santa Cruz's credit, there wasn't nearly as much trash as we've seen in the past. So that was a good thing.
That was good.
But it was just, you build these relationships and it kind of brings people together over the common good of doing something great for Santa Cruz community and for the ocean in this regard. So it wasn't surprising that we had a good turnout for a beach cleanup. We love to do those. But this one that we did last year in partnership with the Marine Sanctuary, it was just cool to see the deeper connections that were formed in the collaborative groups. A lot of times it's easy for the basketball players to stay with the basketball players and the ticket holders that want to talk to them, but it's hard to mesh. This was one that everybody just kind of dispersed together.
Fabulous. Now, Chris, when it comes to traveling yourself, I mean, obviously you're going back and forth on a regular basis between San Francisco and Santa Cruz, an hour 15 to given traffic or whatever. But what about with the team when they're traveling? Because it's a smaller calendar, fewer games in the G League, but half of those games are going to be traveling. Do you go to the away games, or do you typically stay here and get other work done?
The latter. I'll make a couple of trips a year. I think, there's some games in Vegas that we play every year that we kind of have to go to. It's the showcase, so we go to that because we have those business meetings as well. And I think for me, the way I like to approach it is like, I want to go learn from other business practices, right? Like, so, I've been to a game in Texas with the Texas Legends because they do a really great job of their in-arena experience and drawing the entertainment there. So I wanted to go and learn from that perspective. So if I have a business reason to be there and learn that can make our experience better at our arena, then I want to do it. I would say we have probably the best experience or one of the best run kind of businesses. So there's not as many to go see at the G League level, but I get to enough of our NBA arenas and other sporting events in general that I'm able to pick up stuff. And then we usually take a group of our top partners on a road trip every year as well. So I like to go with them and go on the road where, obviously we can take in a game, but we do, a chalk talk with the coach before the game, or we'll do a breakfast with the players, like something where our partners can kind of get to know people on a closer basis as well. It's really been a great environment for us. So I don't go to a ton of road games, but when I'm there, there's like a tangible reason. I've seen a lot of basketball games. I can't just travel to watch basketball, but our GM, our scouts, we have people on the basketball side. We travel a content person from a social media and digital content perspective. We're one of the only teams in the league that does that. I think it's allowed us to bring a lot of unique experiences that are happening on the road to our fans, right? The people that follow us on social media are able to see like what the players are doing when they're in Oklahoma City, like they are today, or whatnot. You see these experiences throughout. You get to know the players in a less formal setting in a way as well, which the access that we have and the camaraderie that builds with the team has been great to show to our fans as well.
And now you've got a special event coming up, your 10th anniversary celebration. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear more about that. What's that looking like? Because we're only like less than 2 weeks away.
10 days from tonight. So, this is our 10th season in Santa Cruz. It's our 11th overall. We had the one bubble year in COVID that was played in Disneyland. So we didn't want to shortchange that and not celebrate our 10th year here. So we're doing throughout the year, there's different things tied to our 10 years in Santa Cruz. But next Saturday on the 19th, we're kind of hosting our 10th anniversary tribute game, that one specifically. So our giveaway is like, a traditional pennant tied to that 10th anniversary game, that commemorative 10th anniversary. We're bringing back, the first team president in history. He's going to be coming back. We're bringing together a group of the core community members. At the time, they were called the Blue Ribbon Committee, that really worked together with the city offices to really evaluate, like, does Santa Cruz want to bring the Warriors here? Right. So there was about 8 to 10 community members, business leaders throughout that really worked with the city of Santa Cruz to decide, like, is this great for Santa Cruz or not? Like, should we do it? We're inviting all of them out to be honored. Because at the end of the day, like, if we didn't get here 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had any of the success. None of this could have happened. And now here we are talking about, long-term arena plans and making Santa Cruz our forever home. So I think it's cool to be able to celebrate all these things next Saturday. On the 19th. Tickets are still available, so people need to
that was my next question. Tickets are still available. And for those that want to get tickets, and they just go to Santa Cruz Warriors website?
Yep, SantaCruzBasketball.com, or you could go to Ticketmaster or download our app. You can do it. We have a new app this year, the Santa Cruz Warriors app. Everything's there. You can get your tickets. You can check out the schedule, the roster. I think the roster is actually one of the things that has been very exciting for fans with the app, because it changes a lot, right? But we talked earlier about how players flow, other teams may grab them or whatnot. So the roster does kind of change throughout the year. So people, using the app are able to kind of follow along who's there, what's the background on these guys. They're not all, overly household names, right? So you're able to see where they went to school and how long they've been in the league and different things as well.
Okay, and now last question.
Yes.
Answer it if you will, but you just mentioned Santa Cruz wanting to be the home for the SC Warriors here. Rumors are abound that we've got this mall on 41st Avenue in Santa Cruz County, and the Capitola Mall is fairly just barely holding on. But I heard rumors that the Santa Cruz Warriors may be thinking of building an arena right in the mall alongside a whole bunch of other stuff that's planning on developing. Is there any truth to that rumor?
There's no truth to the rumor that like we're looking to go over to that mall site. I mean, we've talked to that group in the past, but it's nothing that, I would say is that's not our goal, right? Our goal is to be downtown in Santa Cruz. We've obviously had a phenomenal relationship with downtown Santa Cruz in the city in the time that we've been here. And we think there's an excitement around building something downtown, a mixed use development with an arena that not only holds Santa Cruz Warriors games, but concerts and shows, and maybe the Santa Cruz Symphony and, UCSC athletics and other types of events that really becomes like a sports and entertainment in the arts district downtown, which is also walking distance to the ocean and all these other things that are amazing that we have. But I think that's really our focus is on building an arena downtown, there.
Well, that's phenomenal. Just that news in itself, to know that that might be a thing that we can look forward to in the future. And I can't believe our time has flown by the way it has, Chris. I know you're a busy man, and I can't thank you enough for notching out an hour with me. I know it means a lot to me, and I'm sure to the listening audience, especially those in the local region here in Santa Cruz. And I just got to say thank you. I wish you well for this season. That's kind of hard to do being a Celtics fan, but I'm rising above. I'm trying to get to be a big guy. I'm trying to grow up a little bit.
I love it.
That's it. Well,
thank you.
So
I
much.
appreciate you taking the time. It's been a pleasure. I love the conversation and really appreciate the time you've given me today as well.
You got it.
And that's a wrap for this special edition of the Zelos podcast. If you happen to be on the Central Coast in the Santa Cruz area and you want to come by for that special game this weekend, please do. Otherwise, just click on your station that features G League entertainment, and because we got one right here and we watch those Santa Cruz Warriors on cable, no problem. Otherwise, follow the Warriors along in Golden State and everywhere they travel throughout the country. We will see you next week.